So, 2012, 2013 versus today's Zags. Who has the coaching advantage? Jim? Has Mark gotten better as a coach in the last 2 years?
Who are Pangos?
It looks like it. The two of his teams in the final in the last 3 years. Guess he's figuring this out as he goes
I
along.
guess he is. I wonder who's going to win the backcourt matchup.
Yeah, you got
Pangos and
sophomore.
Bell versus Pangos and Bell.
Yeah, that's, boy, 60 and 5? That's a combined record?
So far, 60 and 4.
60 and
Yeah.
60 wins and 4 losses.
And just by the numbers, I mean, field goal percent, both of them, you know, this team's 53, that team is 50.
50, right? Both of them giving
And
up
the defensive
38%.
end, I mean, that's got to be the biggest discrepancy or margin between, you know, makes and miss and holding on defense.
Tom, does Gonzaga get a bad rap for defense? I mean, that's always that they're
Yes,
soft.
I think they do. And then, you know, they had that stretch here this year. You know, you had 4 games in a row and you held teams between 29 and 36%. I know Mark was really happy and it felt like, you know, that was kind of the goal. I mean, at one point this year, I think we were the only, us and SMU, ironically, a team that we blasted here, were the only teams who were in the top 15 in offensive field goal percentage and defensive field goal percentage. So it was, you know, pretty good. I mean, the numbers backed it up. But yeah, I think they have over the years. You know, I think there have been some teams who've been pretty good defensively, and you know, a lot of that's, you know, I mean, look over these last 4 years, Gary, you know,
Right.
obviously, and then you know, Shemik's been really good. But I think over the years there have been some guys that have been pretty good defenders.
Kind of numbers-wise, Pangos is probably just a little bit better this year than he was in 13. But efficiency-wise and all those
Right.
ratings, turnovers, assists, he's through the roof.
Yeah, right.
He's a guy who wants the ball at the end of the game, tries to get, he holds the ball to get fouled, to get to the
Right.
free throw line in the final minutes. Wiltshire, the way he's developing. I sure wish I knew how this team finished before I
Right
voted.
before you voted. Yeah.
Make it a little easier.
Yeah. Let's hope we don't send them into the tank with some sort of curse.
Oh, I hope not. Oh, good
Yeah.
Lord.
Pretty good depth, both teams.
Right. No, that bench on the 12-13 team.
Yeah, Stock, Stour, Shen.
Although I think both teams probably have at least one NBA guy on the bench.
Yeah.
I gotta think Sabonis is probably headed there.
Who do you think wins that inside matchup? Ronnie?
That's a tough one. I just thought, you know, if you take a look at potential holes, I just don't see many this year.
Right.
I really don't. You know, we're talking about, you know, pinholes on either team. And, you know, it'd certainly take seniors over sophomores between, right, Pangos and Bell, just from a maturity perspective, from a assist turnover perspective, from a health perspective. Sabonis, I think, is just a tremendous player. To have him come off the bench and be able to either go in for Shem, go a little bit smaller, come in for Wiltshire, go a little bit bigger. You're talking about Shem and Sabonis as your 4 and your 5. The eclipses, right? And where's the sun? They can't see that.
Right.
And Wesley, I think, is a really underrated build guard and a scorer on the perimeter that can go do that. Similar to Mike Hart, but also, right, has a really unusual knack for scoring the seams. He's not going to kill you from outside, but they don't need him to go do that. So lots to like about either team. You know, sitting here with several weeks to go in the season, obviously tough to project. But you gotta like where this thing's headed, from my perspective.
I got to think the current team, you're talking about, Jeff's alluded to it a number of times, the incredible depth. And you see it now really in the backcourt. McClellan being eligible now, and just, although he's only really gotten spot minutes, but there's been a couple of games where he's been really, really crucial. And, you know, Kyle and the kind of spark that he brings, and Silas, who is already shown himself to be fearless when it comes to stepping up and taking a shot that needs to be taken. That's a lot of, you know, that's a cushion that maybe the 2013 team didn't quite have.
Yeah.
Obviously, with when Gary got hurt, that hurt in the Wichita State game, but they didn't quite have the same depth maybe that they could survive it. I think that's probably the difference
And John, I
for
think
me.
if you think of like the Santa Clara game, kids going off the first half,
Yeah,
right? Gary's got him for a bit, and then it's okay. McClellan, you come get him.
Yeah.
Trey Guinness is a guy that is so underrated.
yeah,
On any other team, that kid, he is a really good player.
Yeah.
And so they got these 3 or 4 different guys. If you're going into a Wichita State game, you've got guys that can come in,
yeah.
go hard for 5 or 8 minutes, go defend somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like matchups not working.
Yeah.
There's another guy right next guy
Yeah,
up.
and have accepted those roles. That's
And
what's,
have they, I mean, that, I've never known a basketball team where people didn't complain about playing time. Is that, was it really as seamless as it seems?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah,
I
You
think
know,
it is.
You know, Coach, you and I talked about that earlier today, you know, so you're down by 17 in the first half of St. Mary's, it's 11 points at halftime, the coaches are in their locker room talking. They walk in the locker room and there's nothing, you know, no bickering, no complaining, no pointing fingers, hey, you're shooting too much, or hey, you know, go grab rebounds. Everybody's just, okay, Coach, what are we doing now? What, you know, how do we get ourselves out of this hole and go and win? And I said it earlier, but I mean, Kevin and Gary, right? I mean, you can't state how important it is to have those 2 seniors who were, you know, willing to, you know, and you talk about the, you know, like the Santa Clara game. I mean, Gary, we've talked about him for 4 years being a lockdown defender. The guy's going off, so Coach brings in another guy, right? And Gary has no problem with it. He's fine, you know. And then after that game, I remember, you know, Coach, if you grabbed Gary afterwards, it was like, hey, you're a winner. You know, it was like, you make plays that make this work for us, and everybody's happy. And I think that's, you know, unique, and probably why this team is, you know, is in a good spot to be the one.
That happened the other night at St. Mary's. What you're talking about. They kept throwing those bigs at Brad Waldo, who was killing them early.
Yeah.
And by the end of the game, he could hardly stand up. I think he was out of gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron Bright, the same way. He's playing 35, 37 minutes, and
Yeah.
he's got 4 different guys that might guard him in a half,
Yeah.
you know? And this team has a nice ability to just, the cumulative effect they have. Throw those bodies at you, that size at you.
Is basketball itself evolving? You look at the Hawks and the Warriors, these teams that just run guys out. I mean, is it, could those teams with Morrison and, you know, scoring at 30 points, is that style of basketball not win the way it used to?
I think that's an awesome question. There's in my opinion, Jess, the NBA is certainly going that way. It's, from my optics, a welcome change. Right? And Carmelo Anthony scoring 28 a game and winning 6 games, that's just doesn't, right? Who cares? And watching the Atlanta Hawks and certainly how the Warriors go play and they're spreading the court, the Spurs.
Right, the Spurs might be a model for that.
You know, and I remember Coach Calipari had this quote several years ago. He's like, I've been in a lot of NBA draft rooms, and there's one question I've never heard asked, which is, how many points did the kid average in college?
Yeah.
And I think today's players understand that. And they understand, right, team being bigger than me, and I want to come to Gonzaga to go play in the tournament and go do these unbelievable things and look at the guys that have gone to go play. Doesn't matter if I scored 21 a game or 12 a game, it's can I go play? And I think kids really do buy in that. I think that culture has changed in the NBA from the 38 right point night.
Yeah.
That just isn't that big of a
The 3 stars.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you saw with the 2 guards, is there's Pangos and Bell, their sophomore years, they were basically asked, defer to the big guys, and they didn't have, and now as seniors, they continue to defer to the big guys.
As they should, John.
As they should, yeah. Because big guys rule.
I think the game's gone to hell. I think you should rely on a one-eyed point guard looking for his J. That's when the game was pure. So Stephanie, this is the real question. You talked about Dick Ow's hair. Short hair Pangos or long hair Pangos?
I go long.
No.
He's in college. You know, I mean, a lot of them have their little, you know, I mean,
I
there's
don't
certain
trust
things
him
that they
myself.
don't do. There's superstition.
Right.
Are they superstitious in this sport like they are
Oh,
in baseball? You know, so if it's long, let it go long. If not, then keep it cut short.
Yeah.
Do whatever, you're still cute. Young.
Yeah. Damn him.
Well,
All
clearly
right.
I made my mind up a long time ago.
All right, so thanks so much, guys. This was incredibly helpful, and I'm guessing it'll spark all sorts of arguments. You'll probably get accosted
Phone
on
calls,
the street.
texts.
Yeah, and we'll get the freeze out for some veteran Zags.
Exactly. Santangelo going to put my Hoop Fest court like not only past the.
You'll be
No, he's not going to give me a ride to the airport next week either.
Trentwood.
I'll be playing on that court at the top of the jail. That's where my Hoop Fest.
Just north of the Y.
Again. Right. So, but anyway, this was great. Again, Jeff Brown, Jim Meehan, Stephanie Vigil, Tom Hudson, and John Blanchette, probably the greatest basketball minds ever gathered in this particular room today.
I have a headache.
So thanks again for coming, and go Zags.